Have you ever heard the phrase, that which you measure improves? It's really one of the most powerful pieces of advice any restaurant owner should follow. The value of your numbers, data, and metrics can mean the difference between you making money and going out of business. The restaurant industry is an industry of pennies, in fact, not dollars. That means we need to be penny pinching, right? We need to be looking and know that every penny makes it to the bank and that everything makes us money, that we are not losing money by throwing away product or working too many hours. You get the picture. And the best way to start making money, the money that you deserve, is to start tracking. Hey there, Restaurant Pro. This is David Scott Peters, restaurant expert, coach, and creator of the Restaurant Prosperity Formula. And I'm going to share with you the power of data, how metrics can transform your restaurant's performance. Now, maybe you've heard restaurant industry magazines or experts or pros throw around basically the term called KPIs, an acronym, KPIs. What are KPIs? Well, they're key performance indicators, numbers in which you measure your success. That number, again, allows you, when you measure it, when you set it, and you put systems in place to achieve it, and then you measure again, you get to see whether you are, well, in a position to improve your bottom line, to improve your operation. Without that measurement, how do you know? Your gut? Again, as an industry of pennies versus dollars, we need to have specific targets for everything that we do. And put systems in place to achieve those, train people to those systems, and hold people accountable to those systems, and then measure to know that they're getting it done. Let me share with you a handful of KPIs I teach my members that basically allow them to hit a 15 to 20% profit margin. That's what they need to have in place to achieve, not the 5 to 8 cents the National Restaurant Association says, but 15 to 20% profit margin. Imagine if you could hit that. Well, the only way is to make sure that you have a budget in place. And we're going to talk about that in the first tip. So, number one, you must create a budget. If you've been following me for any length of time, you've heard me say the two most important systems any restaurant should have are budgets and recipe costing cards, because they're proactive tools. But your budget is your plan for success, taking the past 12 months and saying, if I operate the next 12 months the same way I did in the past, my rearview mirror, here's what I'm going to make or lose. Then you decide what systems I'm going to put in place, how quickly, who I'm training, who I'm holding accountable, and by when and what kind of results will I see. Now, this is important, because every KPI that you're going to put in your restaurant, damn near everyone, is derived from your budget. How do you know what your KPI, your key performance indicator, should be, that number, if you don't have your plan for success? Not some industry standard. Now, if you want to learn more about budgeting, make sure you look here on my YouTube channel and you look up budgeting, because I've got several videos, if not a handful, that are going to cover that for you. Number two, when it comes to cost of goods sold, not only do you know your budget target that we just kind of talked about, what number should I hit, but you also need to be calculating your actual and your ideal cost of goods sold. Why? Because they're going to give us different measurements. Our budget is what we need to make money. Our actual is based on beginning inventory plus purchases minus ending gives us use. What left the shelves? Use divided by sales, food cost target, pour cost target by bottle, beer, drapery, wine, liquor. You get the picture. But the bottom line is, here I set a budget target to make money, and then I measure, did I hit it? This allows us to look at and say, did I hit my targets? Am I making the money I'm supposed to? Well, a lot of people stop there. Well, next I need something called ideal to actual. An ideal food cost is based on accurate, up-to-date recipe costing cards. What I sell it for, each one of those items, and my point of sale system, my product mix, what my customers actually purchased. This is going to calculate your ideal or theoretical food cost. No waste, no theft, no spoilage, perfect restaurant. If we followed every recipe perfectly, which does not happen, ain't going to happen. But the truth of the matter is that's where your number should be. And what we're going to do is we're going to compare our ideal to our actual. Remember, actual is based on inventory, what actually left the shelves. Well, when I do that, I can see if my menu even gives me a chance to make money, which I'll talk about in a second. But more importantly, ideal to actual says, hey, a rock star chef or kitchen manager will run 2 points above ideal. So if my ideal is 30% and they run 32, they're a rock star. Most restaurants run 7 to 9 points above ideal. So when I look at that and they come in at 2, maybe even 3, I go, hey, my chef or kitchen manager is doing a great job buying and teaching people knife skills and prep, and they're following menus and they're putting out dishes at portion trainings going on, like they're running a great kitchen. Well, then we take our ideal to our budgeted, our ideal food cost or cost of goods sold to budgeted. And this says, hey, I'm in my position to make money because remember that 30%, maybe run at 32 and we got a rock star? Maybe my budget needs a 30% food cost. That means, hey, chef, kitchen manager, re-engineer the current menu to bring that food cost down 2 points so that our actual will match our budgeted, we can make money. Because quite frankly, we can't make money even if we run like a rock star, which we already are. Really powerful KPIs. To learn more about these three numbers and how they'll transform how you look at your kitchen, be sure to listen to podcast 70 of my podcast, Restaurant Prosperity Formula, found on all the popular podcasting services. Number 3, when it comes to labor costs, like cost of goods sold, you have to start with a budget. Funny how we keep going back to the budget, how important your budget is if you want KPIs. In fact, if we don't run a restaurant on a budget, I can guarantee you when it comes to labor, you're running your restaurant labor cost on an incorrect number. Incorrect. There's no way to know where your labor cost should be without a budget, because we may have some months that we're going to run a 34% labor cost because it's our slow season. And we've got a manager, we got a cook, we got a server, and that's all we're doing. And we're running a 40% labor cost because there's no sales. But because your salaried managers are salaried, in season when sales are through the roof, and I reach something called maximum efficiencies, I can't add another person to the line. I can't add another server to the floor. There's no room for them. My labor cost drops like a rock. I don't pay my managers more because we're busy. And there's at some point in time, I've got too many, I have more money, but no positions for people to work. And all of a sudden I've got a lower labor cost. Maybe that's 18%. So without a budget, you can't possibly know where your labor cost should be. You can't use a national average. So one of the things we want to do when it comes to budgeting for labor, we want to go into the week on budget using a system I teach called the Restaurant Payroll Guardian, that based on your budget and last week's number, with a quick calculation, typing in a little data, takes less than 5 minutes, I can tell your managers how many dollars they have, but more importantly, how many hours they have to schedule next week. So when they're using that fancy scheduling software and they see they're 14 hours over budget in the kitchen, they can figure out when they need to stagger start to still have the 7 cooks on the line, but not bleed the labor. Go into the week on budget versus bringing people in and praying we're busy. With that said, we need to start tracking labor on a daily basis. You've got your budget target, but better yet, when you follow my systems, you're going to have a different labor target by day of the week. So now we can be on the same page with our management team. It's a system I call the labor tracker. But we want to track labor on a daily basis to get out of the habit of getting to Friday, looking at your POS system and saying we're over budget for the last 5 days. We need to cut. On our 2 busiest sales days of the week, we want to give shitty service, long ticket times, right? Because we blew our labor budget. Instead, on a daily basis, if we're tracking, we can see when we hit or missed, and then we've got the rest of the week to make small changes to get back on pace instead of ripping the Band-Aid off. And with that tracking, you want to track your hours. And when I mean that, like we all know to track our labor percentage, our running labor cost, right? Well, you should know that. But I think more importantly now is you've got to track your hours. More importantly, your originally scheduled hours with actually worked. And what that can tell me is, let's say I scheduled 350 hours and we were going to have a $10,000 day, just pulling that out of the air. Well, if I look and I worked 360, scheduled 350, but we worked 360, wouldn't you expect that our sales would have been higher than we forecasted? Absolutely. But instead, maybe you see that they're exactly what forecast was or under. And now we understand we've got to coach a manager who fell asleep at the wheel, was stuck in the office, who didn't cut, doesn't know how to do so. And it gives us the opportunity to have, again, 6, 5, 4, 3 additional days to fix it after we coach it. That's huge. Another KPI is tracking something called dollars per labor hour work. Now, I'm not going to dive into this deeply. This is what I call an advanced system, but basically it's, efficiencies. For every cook on the line, for every server in a station in an hour, they produce how much in sales. And what this can do is put you on common footing to say, am I overstaffed? For instance, we may determine through dollars per labor worked and a conversion with what, say, the food sales per person are, that your kitchen is making 10 items an hour each cook on the line. So I have 2 cooks on the line, we'd make 20 items. Well, that's not great. It's not bad, but it's not great. I want you at around 20. You do 20 to 25 when you're getting your ass kicked. So we want to be searching for somewhere of 14, 15 or higher. And all of a sudden you can see each day and go, maybe I'm overstaffed this day. And you can make changes. Really, really powerful, but you got to have a budget again to get there. If you want to learn more about controlling your labor costs, be sure to search both my YouTube channel and podcast for labor strategies. Number 4, and finally, based on budget targets, again, key word here is budgets, you need to be tracking your operating expenses. Expenses such as occupancy costs, paper supplies, restaurant supplies, janitorial supplies, comps, credit card discount rates, and much, much more. Again, your budget is critical to your success. Your budget is your plan for success. You decide what systems you're going to put in place, when you're going to put them in place, and how quickly you're going to see the results. Because with a budget and your KPIs, you're now in a position, basically a position to say that which we measure improves. You have measurements in, and you can make change. By tracking your KPIs, you can do things like, well, adjust your menu prices before it's way too late. Change your menu to reduce the number of prep hours needed. Know when you need to add or subtract employees from your roster, and much, much more. Collecting data can be as simple as a yellow tablet, a pen, and a calculator. For many, creating spreadsheets can do the trick for most of it. But for most, I want to be very clear, for big things like food costs, you're going to need software. I don't think I can overstate the importance of creating and measuring your KPIs. The potential benefits of using the data will help you make informed decisions for your restaurant success, and that's priceless. Be sure to join me live every Friday at 8 a.m. Pacific time on YouTube, travel schedule permitting, where I'll get you pumped about the upcoming weekend, get you excited about crushing your goals and finding the motivation to be best you possible. Plus, I'll answer your burning questions live.